How much XRP do you need to become a millionaire over the next few months or years? This is the most requested topic. It's by far the most asked question. And even though in times that are bad, I mean, right now the crypto market is not moving as much, it's asked a lot less. I think still a lot of people would like a good estimate of where I think the prices are going to be going and from which point in terms of the amount of coins you are good to go. Because a lot of people are asking this every single day. Now, let me put this forward. If you are holding $1 worth of crypto, just $1, you're ahead of 99% of people. Because even though some statistics may say, yeah, about 1 in every 4 now owns crypto, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗲𝗪𝗧𝗐, I've done the personal experiments of going around the neighborhood and asking, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not more than 5%, all right? Of general populace, I'm not sure. But I've gone around and most people I speak to don't own this. Matter of fact, they call it a scam. And if you are in a circle where everybody owns it and is excited about it, you, my friend, have a very special circle. Because every single person I've asked, sure, there's a few who are pretty bullish, right? But it's really the minority. It's very, very small minority. Having said that, I still think the crypto market is going to increase by a massive fold over the next few years. And let me give you guys the number one reason. I'd say out of everything, I guess this one reason can be broken down into a few different parts. It's a new wave of institutional money coming to the sector, which partially is because of ETFs, partially is because of treasuries. And as I've stated before, there are big companies right now, actually public companies as well, that are stating, we just want to buy these crypto coins because we know it's going to increase our stock price. So all they do is they buy these cryptocurrencies, sometimes at a discount, most times not, with the idea that their stock price or the amount of money they'll be able to raise is going to be so significant that it'll make it worth it so they can buy more crypto. It becomes a bit of a loop where either their stock price increases more in anticipation or they use this increase and whatever to even raise more money to, again, get a little bit of a increase going into their market cap or their company's size. Again, part number 2 is, of course, the massive inflow of ETFs, which is 2 parts, more ETFs and the actual inflows that it brings with institutional capital. And I guess another completely different side of it is the new wave of regulation. I've got 1,001 different announcements open right now of all the different things that are changing. On the one hand, we've got things being set straight with, Trump's right now being removed from the company, for example, which, hey, you could definitely argue is a good thing. On the opposite side, we've got really huge institutional announcements. CBOE to launch continuous futures contracts for Bitcoin and ETH with a contract length of 10 years and implementation of funding rates inspired by perpetuals. It's becoming less and less of a line or less and less of a gap between Web 2, the traditional financial space, and Web 3, all this crypto stuff. It's happening so quickly. And having said that, I think we're going to see the craziest part over the last few years in basically the next few months. I believe that XRP is going to be one of the forefront coins of that, but it's not exclusively so. Meaning today, I decided to pick XRP partially because it's the biggest asset that I own. But as you might have seen from my videos throughout the last couple of weeks, months, whatever, I own everything, right? For example, here, we've got about, I'm going to say $400,000 in some different bots. It's a lot of different coins that I've got, right? We've got some Bitcoin in there. We've got some different coins, like everything, right? We've got a good chunk of ETH here in a few different bots, a nice amount of XLM. I've got all these different coins. I've got a good stash of $250,000 worth of XRP here as well. And sure, if I really start breaking down the math, my XRP positions over my accounts are largest. For example, here's a $1 million XRP long that I've got open. And that brings me to the question at hand. How much do I think one would need? Well, I personally think that XRP right now at $3 has basically found itself that base. And what do I mean with base? Well, I kind of feel as if the price action right now and the prices are kind of similar to what we saw back before the crazy gains of 2024. So again, slow but sure downwards trend, but mostly not volatile. I mean, there was indeed a little bit of a dip right here, and it may look as if it was really volatile. But if you really start measuring out throughout this period, the price really didn't do too much. Take a look. So the general higher points throughout this cycle was roughly about 62 cents. The lower part of the cycle was for the most part about 51. At the lowest, about 48. You can see it was like a few cent range. Now, when you really start breaking down, this is the daily, right? really start breaking down the volatility in this little period right here from about October 3rd to all the way towards like November 6th, so 1 month, you can see the price really didn't go more than 10% up or 5% down from the start, right? It really didn't move at all. And that's kind of the period that we're in right now, where sure, the price is slowly but surely moving down, but really all of a sudden, the moment it broke that previous high, it was just a massive, massive surge afterwards. And I'd like to go back and say, sure, it's been down for a little bit, but I still think that the moment we take out this previous top, let me quickly Option H it, there we go. The moment we take out this top at 366 is going to be a pretty crazy, miraculous rise, probably towards the $10 mark in a freaking snap. And how am I taking advantage of that? You know, if we go to $10, for example, I'd be satisfied. I'd be very much satisfied. Why? Well, because I've got millions of dollars in these various different trades. Here's some other trades I've got over on 𝗬𝗂𝗃. And by the way, 𝗬𝗂𝗃 right now is something pretty cool going on. If you go to the description, you'll always find it right here. You can actually get yourself a 10K free trade depending on how much you deposit, etc., etc. Check it out. Because even though I personally think the bots are the best and simplest way to trade with the first link up there, it's actually pretty huge what they're doing right now for a limited amount of time, which is why I've put them above Bluefin. They have good sign-up bonuses, sure, but 𝗬𝗂𝗃 right now is the #1 in the entire world for everything, and it's only for a limited amount of time, so check that one out. But I've also got my Bybit positions that, again, I think for XRP are probably most in profit. So we've got ETH here being up about 57, but -7. So let's say about $50,000. But indeed, the XRP trade, even though we only put $1,000 in, it is still up $60,000. And there comes the funny situation. I right now have two primary ways of trading XRP. And once I explain this, I will say by that logic exactly how much XRP I think you need to be in a good spot. Let me explain this. The two ways that I'm primarily trading XRP are partially in dollar terms, meaning I've got my coins, I've got my longs, and well, yeah, I'd say that's primarily it, right? Where this right here, this bot, all it does is I put $55,000 in. It is acting as if it's trading with 50,000 XRP, so about $150,000. And as the price goes down lower, it buys. As the price goes higher, it sells. You can see every single transaction, for example. It's already placed new buys, still waiting for a sell. And if you scroll through, you can see every single time it buys and sells, it sells for just a little bit of profit, maybe around the 65 cent mark. But it does that about 200 times a day. So by that logic, it will make about maybe $5,000 a month or so, and that does work out. You see that of the $50,000 I put in, it made me about $26,000 in cashed out profits over the past 120 days, so about 4 months or so. So yeah, that does indeed bring a little bit of logic here. Some days, of course, are more volatile, so even more trades, but that's one of the ways in which I'm trading XRP right now. I'm just putting in the dollars to trade on XRP, letting the volatility make me money while it's cashing out. While as the price goes up, we're also making trend P&L. That's how it's up a ton. And the same kind of applies to these positions, right? We got $1 million worth of XRP bought because I think the XRP price will go up. And again, we do that with leverage. I put $100,000 in, it's acting as 1 million. And by that logic, if XRP were to go from, let's say, 250 all the way towards $10, that's a 4x, right, on the $1 million we put in. So that would be extremely, extremely good, not only the 100,000 we put in. But the reason I cannot tell you a straight up number for how much XRP is actually because of a second part. Another thing with regards to my trading that I'm doing recently is I put different coins inside of these coin margin bots. For example, here I've got 12,500 XRP in it. And what this is doing is it's trading in a way to generate me more XRP. Now, right now, since I started the bot at $3.50, the price is down. So trend P&L wise, we're actually down a little bit. But because I bought the dip a little bit and because it's been going on for like 50 days, actually, I put 5,000 XRP in, which is why this number is so low. But you can still see on whatever XRP I put in, it made about 1,000 XRP over the past 2 months. But I guess it was mostly going to be, let's say about 1,000 XRP on 5,000 XRP, right? So it would have been about 20%, but it added a lot of investment over the past 48 hours. But the idea still stands that it would have generated me more XRP had this been going for a few more months, a few years, really. If you start breaking it down, it could have generated me a ton of XRP. Why am I saying all this? Well, I started thinking about it. Essentially, I don't think any person out there should just have their coins completely idle and nothing else. Unless you're a person that doesn't want to look back, you want to buy once and wait. That's fine. But at that point, if you're not going to buy any more coins, if you're just buying them and you're not doing anything, then I guess there's no point to even discuss anything because you'll just see, you're just going with the flow. So for those people, different, which I recommend for some people. If you don't have any time, you don't like them, you don't care for it, or you get too stressed out, I completely understand. One bracket of people. For most people, what I recommend, and this is not finished advice, this is my thoughts on what I would do if I was you. If I had a medium bag size, I'd probably leverage some of my portfolio, meaning I'd actually not use full leverage on the portfolio, meaning if I had $1,000, for example, I'd make sure my positions don't exceed 1,000 where I'm at risk, but I could, for example, on a buy bet, make it so that I have a position that's $100 worth, for example, act as if it's, let's say, for example, $300, and while the rest of my portfolio, that might have some dollars, might have some different cryptos in there, act as collateral, I would not be able to actually get wrecked on that position while having 3 times the amount of coins of something that I would like, right? If you play around with that, you can at least leverage it a few times. And specifically when you start thinking about the fact that your account can only go down so much, especially if you're holding your main coins like BTC, ETH, XRP, those type of coins, how much down can it go, right? Never more than 80% in my own opinion, unless you're talking about the bear of the bear. But if the bear of the bear comes, I would need to deposit so much money anyway that it kind of evens itself out. Anyway, there's a lot of calculations for that. I always say a little bit of leverage is applicable to most people. And then you have the branch that I kind of belong in, which is we leverage out everything. Why? Partially because I realized that as long as you manage the drawdowns, as long as you have some funds left to, in case you need to buy that dip, in case the market does do something crazy, most times the market doesn't go as crazy as fast as you expect it to. Meaning the probability of a minus 50% move in a day is so small, and I'd have to basically stack up so much on that type of move that I kind of ignore it. I do not prepare for the fact that a minus 50% slash could come within a few hours or so. And that's, as you can see right here, for example, my 12,000 XRP, which still is about $40,000, would actually get wrecked if XRP goes below 229. Now that, theoretically speaking, is a bit high for me personally as well. But all I have to do is just deposit some more XRP and realize I've got a frick ton more XRP to go, right? I just only bought a little bit here. And that's the funny thing. If let's say I have let's say I have 100,000 XRP, pick a number, right? I only put, let's say 12,000 XRP in here. I can add a lot more as margin. For example, if I were to, can I just see it? Even if let's say I were to put significant amount more as margin, you can see my liquidation price basically goes to 0 at some point, right? So I can still make some of that XRP, generate me, in this case here, a 50% yield in XRP back, while I keep the rest just idly by. It's still significantly more gains than doing nothing. And again, this is all over on Payonics. Now, if you didn't want to do that, you don't want to move around with that at all, how much will I need? Well, I see everything from the basis of how many coins do I have to accumulate, and how much then will those coins accumulate me more in coins? Or how much of a position will I need to acquire, and how much will that position, accumulate over time? Meaning, I don't really think of the amount of coins and how much it's worth unless you're talking about the value after leverage. But if you're asking how many dollars do I need to acquire that, it's going to be different depending on how much risk you want to take. I've said before, there are a lot of people who turn $4,000 into 20 million because they keep stacking and they keep increasing their risk. Is this something for everybody? No. But I am saying that that's really going to make your situation very much different, because I don't really look at the amount of XRP so much as a goal. Millionaire. When are you that? When the value of everything you've got is $1 million? Somebody might say, well, when I get to buy $1 million worth of XRP, I'm a millionaire. But that's significantly different because we only put $100,000 down for this, right? This is with leverage, but we are able to get ourselves $1 million position. We could 20x it and get it with only $50,000. And fun fact, this $50,000 we could have gotten with a $1,000 trade. Because again, if we look back over on Bybit, which is right here, I put $1,000 in on XRP, one of these trades. It turned into about $60,000 over a few months, or maybe a year, or maybe more, which theoretically speaking, I could now use to act as a $1 million XRP trade. And if XRP, by the luck of the frickin' draw, now doubles, we'd actually have made $1 million with just 1,000. Now, I also started to experiment myself, right? So one thing I've also, by the way, there's a competition going on for anybody that wants it. But I've also decided to open a 10K to $1 million challenge to showcase if I only were to start out with $10,000, how long would it take me to get to $1 million? Because I'm quite sure it's going to happen, but it will take some time. I said before, it might take 2 or 3 years. Now I actually think it will happen significantly faster if XRP does do as we kind of expect it to, which is pull a nice little triple here. Again, like I stated before, I think XRP, the moment it starts gaining here, the moment it starts breaking out from this little downtrend it's got going on, it's going to be quite a crazy rally, with the first stop, of course, being that 350, just a logical barrier. Most importantly, 366, the previous all-time high now, and then just blast through pretty quickly towards $7, maybe even $10. But then by that logic, if we say that XRP can easily hit $10, $15 in the season, we need about, let's say, 100,000 to maybe 70,000 XRP to get to the $1 million status. If we then think about the fact that we can get ourselves that position with slightly less, because I always say, any position really, I always take as a baseline a 3x ETH long. If it doesn't outperform a 3x ETH long, I go for it. And so by that logic, maybe a 3x XRP type of situation as well. So maybe by that logic, 33,000, maybe on the lower end, 25,000 XRP or so to get to that $1 million position or that $1 million spot. But to counter that again, if you had, for example, 5,000 XRP right now, you played in on the current landscape. And again, I'm not advising you to do anything. I'm just thinking this through with y'all at the opposite side here. If we played this right, and we actually had 5,000 XRP at these levels, we take it towards the 366 just by this movement alone. Let's just see for fun. If we 10x'd it, we'd have some nice 25% gains on the full 50,000. And if we then actually decide to indeed say, hey, you know what, we're going to double down here, we take it out, or we now re-leverage that. That's like I said, how before people can get to those crazy numbers because they again believe the moment this is broken, for example, they reinvest the profits, go after it harder. That's how you pretty easily stack up an account from 1K to, for example, those crazy numbers. With the counter being, let's say you did that on the way up, but actually you started going absolutely ham right here at 360. Perhaps if you went too crazy, you would have gotten wrecked on this move downwards, right? Because we went about 24% down. And that's also if we look at my, where is it now? At my account right here, we opened this 10K to $1 million challenge for the most part at above $3.50, which is why this is at such a massive trend P&L loss. And actually this trade right here also we opened at $3.50, right? At $3.45. That's where you can see it's also not doing the best. But the thing is, as long as you've got a strategy where you didn't use the majority of your capital all at once, maybe you did it with a small amount, but then you had multiple of those small amounts to keep trying it out. Theoretically speaking, you're increasing your odds of getting a trade like mine here over on XRP, where you put $1,000 in, and it really goes towards, in this case here, $60,000 over a season. It was, of course, a bit more. Because, well, since $1,000 out of a maybe $15,000 bag, it's not that much. You might have the courage to try it a few times. And that's actually also when it comes to scalping, for example, if you're trying to scalp a specific level, a specific resistance, a specific mark, oftentimes what they do is they take the trade, for example, if we go back to an XRP chart here, they may take the trade here. If you take a look, for example, they may take it once right there, they may take another time right there, another time right there, another time right there. The fourth time's a charm. Every single time here before they lost. So 1, 2, 3 times they lost, but the fourth time they won big because all of a sudden you can see the market every single time, let's say they lost 1%, all of a sudden this time around though they made 25% with perhaps some significant leverage and they made all the losses before back. It depends on your strategy, of course, but it puts me back to the mindset of from which amount of money are you in a good spot? I'd say anybody that has at least a few dollars in it, that has the balls, let's call it, to try out some stuff, can really do quite well even with very little amounts of money. Even without leverage, you could, if you're a person that is really good at compounding. Leverage just makes things easier. It makes the whole process, it expedites it. It's not a necessity. Everything I do here, everything I talk about can be done without leverage. As I just said, it just makes things a bit faster. My 10K to $1 million challenge, theoretically speaking, works at 1x as well, but it will take probably at least 3 times as long. That's the only counter right there. It's less volatile. It's easier on the mind. There's good side and bad sides to it. Again, from which point are you in a good position? Well, logically, like I said before here, with the $1,000, we were able to make $60,000 over a good run. If XRP now goes from this $3 mark, does another run like we saw back in October of last season, we're again in a similar spot where people with $1,000 could probably easily make $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 of just that one move if XRP were to again be as significant as it did back then. Because again, I want you all to realize the crazy amounts of gains we saw in a very short amount of time. Here, the price went up 600% in like 2 months. But because we 10x leveraged it, it's 6,000%, right? That's up in this little period. So to put you in the right mindset again, how much do you really need? Well, it depends on what your goals are. If $1 million is the goal, then by that logic, if we expect a similar sort of rally to happen within this period, maybe 6,000% worth of gains, well, theoretically speaking, with this logic, we would have needed about maybe $20,000 or so worth of a position to get to this spot. A $20,000 position would have cut it, I think, because we're up 60K-ish right now at $3-ish in XRP. Yeah, I guess at peak, it would have been maybe $15,000 that you would have needed to get to the $1 million number there. Because Because logically, $15,000, let's say, could have acted as $150,000. And in this case here, it went up roughly 600%. You get where my logic is coming from, right? So yeah, that I think could, again, be kind of the ballpark. Why am I saying all this? To make sure people understand that when it comes to these crypto things can really change quite quickly. And every single day, people comment saying, no, but it's easier when you have a lot of money. Oh, yeah, but I don't have it. Well, even people with $20 will probably make a crazy sum over the season, especially if they get a little bit of luck here or there by just getting one right trade or one right call or one right gainer. I've had some of my coins go 800x over the past, not even really bull part of the season. Like, it was just an okay part. And this time around, when I think the altcoin season hits, there's going to be a lot of that all across the board. But the most important part is pivoting. Meaning you first make money on Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, SOL, whatever, the big coins, and then actually sell a lot of that off to buy smaller things. The hardest part is to sell once you make a lot of money, because there's a mindset that comes up then that says, no, you'll make more money with this, or it's safer, or it's already done so well, it's going to continue on with that. It's like a little bias people have that they think just because it's done well, it could do better. I mean, partially we are expecting that to be true based on the fact that it's done well before, it will probably do it again. And just because it did well previous cycle, it will do that again, which is true. But by that logic also, at the end of the cycle, the main coins, they kind of are being sold off for smaller coins. And by the logic, we should follow that same route. It's hard, but we will have to. I will still keep my main coin positions open though, probably. And these I just have because, think about it. Let's say I had 100,000 XRP. Why not put a part of that? But I got to up this by a lot, but I'm a little bit lazy to go and explore where all my funds are at. That's the real reason behind this. For the most part, as you can see, I have been selling off altcoins to just open more and more different bots. Right here, you can see I've been opening basically every single coin right here just to have it as a template. And I have a full sheet of everything, by the way, if you were wondering. It's not as if I'm not keeping track. But I basically thought about it. Why not just have whatever small loose coins I've got laying around? Why not make them act as a bit more? Why not have them generate me even more coins? And again, it's not going to be a straight road upwards, but since I believe these coins will go to higher prices from where we're at currently, it's all just a matter of patience, and I'm not really in a hurry. But I look at, for example, my Solana position here, only 2 months, right? I put only 6.5 SOL in. This was 5 before I upped it by a little bit. And you can see we made 2.5 SOL on it. In dollar terms is nothing, right? Because it's only like $1,000 I put in. But it's still up like $750 in the past 2 months based on Solana going from 188 to 215. Why? Because it's generating in Solana. So now I'm looking back at it thinking, damn, if I had put, 650 SOL in it, which of course is also in this case here a significant amount more money. But hey, let's just think about it. If I put a little bit more SOL in it, this would have actually been up a crazy number as well. And again, dollars is nice. Sure, I'm up, tens of thousands of dollars on the XRP or Bitcoin bot in dollars. But then I'd actually be it up in SOL, meaning if I had a little pocket that I started with 650 SOL, which is at this point is still $140,000. I know it's not accessible to everyone. It's to give an example. But then now, instead of just a 650 pocket SOL, I'd have another 250 to add on top. Matter of fact, if I close this right now, going from 6.5 SOL to, in this case here, 9 SOL, it's really quite crazy when you start thinking about it. The fact that this is also a possibility that I never really explored before. So that's one more thing I'm busy with saying. Right, 0.5 ETH to 0.6. You may not think that's really interesting at all, but I consider it differently, which is these coins were idly laying around. Why not let them stack and buy and sell themselves and just hopefully generate me more of the coin that I was holding anyway? It's a better yield thus far, 80% here on the year, 180% here on the year for SOL, than just staking it or having it somewhere else. Matter of fact, even if it's 10%, it's going to be better than most of the staking protocols, which is why I wouldn't necessarily go for the craziest of leverage on coin margin. And I'd also make sure not to put the full amount in to keep more for, extra in case you need to add some more margin. Because the goal here is just to stack something that's better than nothing. Meaning, if I were to get, for example, 4% of my XRP, you just do the numbers or do the math on it, right? If I put a part of it here and part of it as margin, will I still generate more than 4% a year? Then again, I'm generating 0% on my XRP. So any single dollar I put in is better than nothing, which is the way I'm thinking about it. But your own personal opinion. Asking about my price, $15 in XRP this season, I think is going to happen. I still stand by that. I think it will go way higher, but it depends on a few factors. I have my own personal target at between 10 and 15 for what I think is pretty easily accessible. Again, logically, XRP went to about $3.50 back in 2018, January 4th or 5th. It's 7 years. It could do 3x from that. It's not that hard. Bitcoin was $20,000 at the time. Right now, it's at 120. It's done a 6x from those levels, right? It's not that crazy for XRP to do even worse than that, just a 3x. I think it could do even crazier numbers. $20 is not even odd. I wouldn't be surprised if it were to happen. But to stay conservative, I say, hey, 10, whatever. And that's where it comes back to my leverage stories of previously, which is maybe you take one of these runs, XRP going from $3 to 10, you catch that run. Now, all of a sudden, because of potentially leverage, or because of proper reinvesting in the middle, you might now actually have 10 times as much money as you had before, which makes this whole debacle so much easier. Wanted to quickly get a video of that sort out. Some people will not appreciate this. They say, stop talking about XRP. It's the biggest coin I hold. It's my most exciting coin. Not because it's the craziest of potentials, but I still think it's one of the most undervalued ones. And I understand people want me to quit talking about it because it's a lot, but that's the thing. If I'm passionate about something, I seem to bring it up time and time again. And thus far, throughout the past 10 years of making these videos, we've been extremely right. And I've been fortunate enough to just be strong-willed. If I had listened to comments, I would have sold all my coins a long time ago when people said, stop it, stop talking about blah, blah, blah. I could have sold it at 11 cents in the COVID situation. Could have sold it at 17 cents after the lawsuit came. But we held through. And, well, a few months back, you know the amount of people that congratulated me or said, oh, thank you, or oh, amazing, blah, 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 because XP suddenly went from 50 cents to $3 something. The thing is, you may have a few years of down, but if you just are dedicated enough to sit through those, that few month period of up can make up for all the time that it was down. And XRP did exactly that. Going from 50 cents to 340, that move was all we could have hoped for, basically. And right now, all we want is a similar sort of move like that. I don't even need it. You know, I'm making these videos, as you guys may know, mostly because it's my passion and I've been doing it for 10 years. I don't know what else to do. But I still seriously believe another run of that sort is going to be coming. And I don't mind if I need to wait till a little bit further in the cycle. I don't mind if Bitcoin does whatever number first. I don't mind if ETH does whatever number first. I am also stacking ETH on the opposite side though. But hey, I know where this is going, or at least where I think it's going to be going. I'm focusing on that. I'm working towards that. All I got to do is be patient. And if it ends up not happening, hey, we were wrong. Okay, at least we're diversified. If the entire crypto market doesn't end up working, hey, at least I tried, because I think the odds are way too good. The upside, I think, let's call it 20x of our portfolio. The downside is I'll lose half of what I've got, maybe 80%. But the upside makes up for it, especially because I see the probability of it working out as 95%. Probability of going to zero is 5%. Hey, if I go to zero with a 5% chance or 20x my portfolio with a 95% chance, I take that every single time, which is why I'm so excited every single day when I wake up. I'm just smooth, you know, I'm happy, mostly because I've cracked the system is what I found out. You know, these strategies I've got here, they're too freaking good. Even though the market has been doing nothing here, it's too freaking good. That's about it for this little crypto update. Yeah, make sure you press the like button if you enjoyed it. If you got comments, let me know down below. I read every single one of them, and I'll try to remove some of the freaking annoying bots so it can be a bit more clear. That's about it.